Gotta thank Yahweh for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of Mashiach. Whoa, yeah. I gotta thank Yahweh for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of the Mashiach. Yo, yeah, whoa.
Shabbat Shalom, Zion. Peace and blessings to you and your families. So what I'm getting ready to share with you is not going to be too pleasant. In other words, some of you are not going to want to hear what has to be said. Some of you will even reject it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but hey, someone has to do it. And then again, at the end of the day, it depends on how you look at this. It depends on how you see how the Most High is working with our people and in our people. That's what's going to make the determination. But some of the things I'm going to share with you is not going to be easy to hear because many of our people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I got a little bad news for you. So if you feel like you can't handle this or you don't want to go on, I would strongly advise you to stop the video and just don't even bother to waste your time. So with that being said, let's cut to the chase. Let's get it. So this title is called Is Current Day Israel a Loose Cannon Gone with the Wind? So let's go ahead and turn your Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 4. And you all know this. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 27 and 28, because I'm going to bring out some things that you're going to actually see what the Most High shared with me. And I'm reading from the Sefer, but if you have your Apocrypha, it's all good. Whatever version you have is fine. Just follow along. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 27 and 28. And it goes on to say, And Yahuwah shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Yahuwah shall lead you. Verse 28. And there ye shall serve Elohim, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. Now, we can all agree that this prophecy is currently taking place as we speak because our people are scattered to the four corners. Our people are caught up in all kinds of religion. Our people are worshiping all the enemy's holidays and all their rituals and what have you. Our people are caught up in the heathens' ways and all their doings, dressing like them, eating like them, sleeping with them. So this is a no-brainer. So we know this is us. This is our people scattered to the four corners. Now let's go to the book of Baruch. If you're reading from the Sefer, it's going to be first Baruch. If you're in the Apocrypha, it's just going to be Baruch. So Baruch chapter 2 and verse 13, it says, Let your wrath turn from us, for we are but a few left among the heathen, where you have scattered us. Now, where do we read that at? We read that also in Deuteronomy 4, 27 and 28. Verse 14, Hear our prayers, O Yahuwah, and our petitions, and deliver us for your sake, and give us favor in the sight of them which have led us away. Now, this is what I want you to really realize, and I'm looking at verse 13, because it says, Let your wrath turn from us, for we are but a few left among the heathen, where you have scattered us. Now, I'm going to show you one more verse, and I need to explain something to you. Now, let's go back over to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and let's look at verse 63. And it says, And it shall come to pass that as Yahuwah rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, So Yahuwah will rejoice over you to destroy you, and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked from off the land whither you go to possess it. Now we know this is referring to the conditions that the Most High promised us if we would keep his laws, commandments, and statutes. We were also given what would happen if we broke those laws, commandments, and statutes, if we turned away from the Most High. Also what would happen. See, brothers and sisters, one thing you have to understand is that when the Most High punishes us, he does not punish us as single individuals. He punishes us as a whole unit. You got to get that clear, because the next thing I'm going to tell you, you're going to understand, and then I'm going to give you the bad news. Now, when the Most High brought our forefathers out of Egypt, he brought them to the wilderness where they could worship him face to face. But the journey from that point to Canaan was only a 3.5-day journey. Now you got to ask yourself, why did it take 40 years? Well, you all know the answer to that. It's because of rebellion, because many of our people still had their enemy ways in them. So you got to understand that people coming from a nation where we were so integrated with them. Our people were so integrated with the Egyptians. They were worshiping their holidays, their rituals, all that stuff. So you got to understand, to debug all of that was going to take some time. But it didn't have to take all that time. You see what I'm saying? It was because Israel was a loose cannon. Just like we are a loose cannon today. Our people constantly rebelled. You remember what happened at the bottom of Sinai when Moses went up into the mountain to receive the law? Our people went buck crazy. Just for a few days, they just lost it, just like that. All the miracles they saw, everything, they saw it, but they lost hope. Now, this current captivity we in, that's if you really want to call it a captivity, because we are scattered, just like the scripture said. Our enemies still rule over us. We are still the tail and not the head. We are still having to go to our enemies to buy water, food, and clothing. So you call it whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. The point that I'm trying to make is the fact that the Most High scattered us. He knew. The Most High knew, and it was in his plan. Now, this may sound harsh, as harsh as this may sound. The Most High always knew what he was doing from the very beginning, and he meant to scatter us because of our rebellion, and he meant to bleed us out because he knew that we would start mixing with our oppressors and that we would take on the customs of our oppressors, and that we would begin to become like them. Well, then you would probably ask, well, why would the Most High actually send his people out like that to be destroyed? See, you got to understand, the Bible says that his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. And so the way the Most High does things is completely different from ours. And so when I say that the Most High does not punish us individually, I mean, we are punished as a result of decision, as of making wrong decisions, yes, but I'm talking about as a whole, as a people. We are punished together. Now, I know you had many faithful brothers, the headships of the home, who were keeping the commandments, but that didn't matter because a few knuckleheads messed it up for everybody else. And so we had to be there for 40 years wandering. It didn't have to be like that. Now, can you imagine the headships that were keeping the laws, commandments, and statutes for their family members? They had to suffer through that. And this is the thing we might not quite understand. And I know many of you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. But here's the bad news. Here's the bad news I'm getting ready to lay on you. We are not going to see our deliverance in our generation. And probably not the next generation or the generation after that. Now, you may be saying, hold up there now. Hold on. Who are you to say which generation is not going to see deliverance? You ain't Elohim. You know, you're right. And neither would I want to be Elohim. But I'm gonna share some things specifically that was showed to me that's gonna make you see differently. And I'm not saying this, brethren, to be mean or to get you all depressed. Again, remember what I said in the beginning. It's going to depend how you look at this thing. Now, let me repeat that again. We will not see our deliverance in this generation or the next, and probably the generation after that. Now, in order to understand how long a generation is, the word gives us the formula to calculate how long a generation is. Some people think a generation is between 10 and 20 years, but that's not true. So let's go to the book of Matthew. The book of Matthew, chapter 1, and let's look at verse 17. And then we're going to calculate roughly how long a generation is. So Matthew chapter 1 and verse 17. So it says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. Now, 14 generation is roughly 1,000 years. I mean, you can do the research and calculation yourself. But from Abraham to David are 14 generations. That's 1,000 years. And from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations. That's another 1,000 years. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto the Hamashiach or the Christ are 14 generations. So that's another 1,000 years. So now if you want to calculate how long is one generation, then all you got to do is take 14 generations and then divide it by 1,000 years. And when you do that, you're going to get roughly rounded off to 71 years. So a generation is roughly 71 years. And if you want to check the accuracy of your calculation, then all you got to do is calculate 71 times 14, and then you'll come up with around 994 years. So again, roughly 71 point something, but rounded off, 71 years roughly is a generation. Now let's do something a little more interesting, because after this layout I show you, you're going to see why this current generation will not see their deliverance, and the generation after, and probably the generation after that. It's scary. I'm telling y'all, it is scary. What the Most High showed me. I just need you to bear with me. Now, let's take a generation which is roughly 70 years, right? And if you minus that from 2021, which is the current year, you're going to come up with 1950. Now, you may be saying, well, where are you going with this? Just hang tight, because we're going to compare some things. What we're going to do is we're going to compare our people in the 1950s compared to this current day. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to see a huge difference, and then you're going to understand that there is no way this generation is going to see deliverance, because we have gone so far backwards. Our people have become literally stupid. I told y'all, brothers and sisters, this is not going to be easy to hear, and some of y'all are not going to want to accept this. So from 1950 to this current time is only a generation. Now that seems like a long time, but it's not. And look how much has changed since then. Just one generation. That's crazy. Now let's look at the 1950s. What was the black family like in the 1950s? How strong was the black family in the 1950s? And you all know the answer to that. And this was prior to the civil rights. Well, for one thing, we had a very strong family base. The black man was in the home. Let me repeat that again. The black man was in the home. But see, you women like to say that the men left. But the process that took place was a gradual process. welfare slowly crept in. The government slowly started processing things like that to get the black man out the home and to make the woman independent. See, back then, the roles were clear. The man knew his role. He was the breadwinner. He went out and hustled, worked, grind. I probably shouldn't have used the word hustle, but you all know what I mean. And the beautiful black woman, the Israelite woman, she knew her place. He took care of the home. And that's how it was set up. That's the way the Most High meant it to be. But then when welfare came in and it required the man not to be in the home so the woman could be independent. See, this was a gradual thing. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. Our enemies are very crafty. Are very crafty. Let me show you. Let me show you some proof. The book of Psalms, chapter 83, and verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Now, this time period from 1950 to 2021 is just one generation. So you mean to tell me we've allowed our enemies to get us to this point, this current day, just in one generation? That is phenomenal. So what else was going on in the 1950s with our so-called black families? And, when I say black, we're talking about Israelite families. What's going on? Like I said, the men was in the home. The men were teaching their kids, leading by example. Now, I'm not saying that everything was all perfect, but I'm going to tell you something. We had a much family strong base back then than we do now. 1950s, there was nowhere near the crime amongst our people back in the 1950s. Yeah, there was some crime, but it was rare because our people were so together. It's like we raised our people back then raised other folks' kids. You get a whooping. Now I remember those days still. You get a whooping from your neighbor, and you can't go home, and then your mother give you a whooping. I mean, that's how it was. It takes a village to raise a child. And that's the way it was back then. I remember those days, even though I was not born in 1950. But I do. I mean, my grandmother used to sit me down and everything, and I'm close enough to it. So, brothers and sisters, this was the time for us, it seems like. And even though our people were caught up in Christianity, but we had a strong family base. What else was going on with the strong black families in the 1950s? They had their black-owned businesses, way more than you see now. Our people were strong. And see, that's why they started pushing the civil rights, because they saw how successful our people were becoming. Because prior to the civil rights, we had everything. Did y'all know that we even had our own Negro League? Did y'all know that? Y'all didn't know that, did y'all? We had our own Negro League. We had our own bus lines. I mean, the family neighborhood doctor was Israel. The family neighborhood dentist was Israel. The family neighborhood store owner was Israel. You name it. We were together and we were strong. And see, the enemy saw that and they're like, oh, there is no way, because they saw how fast we were coming up and we were rising and we were becoming so competitive. And then someone came up with the bright idea, civil rights. And that's when things started to go downhill. So we're talking about a gradual from 1950s to roughly to the 1970s, and from the 1970s, that's when it really went to crap. Drugs came in, the crack epidemic, black on black crime within Israel selling drugs to their own people, their grandmother, daughters, and everybody else. just madness. The building of private prisons has gone wild. There's so many private prisons in the US of A, it's not even funny. And our people's being busloaded to these private prisons by the busloads. So you see how we went from the 1950s to this current day. We went so far backward that we've gotten to the point that we're not even no good to the Most High. Let me show you what I mean. You remember when I showed you those pictures of those strong black families, the men and everything? Well, you fast forward today, you would not see anything like that. You still, don't get me wrong, you still see black families, but they're far and few. See, the new black now is the mulatto. That's the new black. And it is said, it's been proven and said that if we continue to live on this earth, that the black race, the Israel, will become so few. Now we know that we're not going to be breeded out. And let me tell you why, because the word says that our seed will remain. But I'm just telling you, now I understand when the Most High says a remnant, he's talking about a remnant of people. He's talking about a remnant of a race of people. See, this is the new modern day family now. And this is what's coming into, this is what you see more of now. It is so prevalent. You can't even question this now. You know, we're having all kinds of stuff being pushed on our people, to homosexuality, to transgenderism, to lesbianism, you name it. We have gone so far backwards. And it was rare if you saw that stuff back in the 50s. It's crazy. Now, you may say, wait a minute, brother, that's not fair because our enemies did this to us. No, we allowed them to do that to us. This is our fault. We allowed it. We have allowed it. And that's why when people got mad at Kanye West, when he said that slavery was a choice, you know, I understood what he was talking about. And I understood, even though I don't deal with Kanye, I don't mess with him. But he said a point. He said that slavery was a choice. And in reality, it was a choice. You know why it was a choice? Because we chose to disobey the Most High. So therefore, we chose the latter. We chose captivity. As harsh as that might sound, it is the truth. And see, we can't blame no one but ourselves. Remember I said in the beginning that the Most High punishes us as a unit. And this is what's happening. See, our punishment haven't even begun to begin. You think that we've been punished? We haven't seen nothing yet. And it's going to continue to get worse. And let me tell you something. You're all going to die. We're all going to die. Whether you die of a chronic illness, whether you die of an accident or whatever unfortunate mishap, whether you just die of old age and you just peacefully fall asleep. But we all going to go to our grave. And that's why I said what I said, that this generation, and you know how long a generation is now, this generation, the next generation, and probably the generation after that will not see the coming of the Messiah. The book of Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. In other words, our people don't even care to begin to know. And this is why I know that this generation will not see the coming of the Messiah. Unless you all of a sudden just die, and then the next thing you see, of course, if the Most High is willing, if you're sealed, then you will see the Most High. But if you're living on this earth and you live to grow to an old age and you die peacefully, you're not going to see the coming of the Messiah in this generation, nor the next generation, and probably the generation afterwards. It's that serious, and that's how far we have gone back. And remember, 1,000 years is only a day to the Most High. You got to understand, the Most High's time frame is not like ours. And see, a lot of people may say, well, what about the awakening, brother? What about people waking up and to the truth? I'm going to tell you something. And again, y'all going to think y'all gonna get mad when I say this, but this awakening is a joke. This is not even an awakening. It's not. It's a false revival. That's what I'm gonna call it. It's a false revival because we are a loose cannon. For one, we're not in our homeland. We don't have a government. We don't have an army. We don't have any representatives. Now, if you want to say that Elohim is our representative, that's fine. But look what he said at the beginning. He says that he will rejoice to do evil for you. So remember, we are being chastised. Even though he is our deliverer, but we have to go through this. This has to happen. We can't get to the end until we're changed by the journey. So this awakening that's happening is a joke because everybody is gone with the wind. Everybody is gone with the wind. We are loose cannons. People got their own doctrines and doing their own thing and justifying, saying that it's okay. You are who your father is, so it's okay for you to do whatever the hell you want to do, sleep with whoever the hell you want to sleep with, and doesn't matter if you're mixed and all that kind of stuff. And see, you're going to see, and you're going to see this brother was right, but it's going to take some time. And when the next 50 years go by, if you're still living by then you're going to look back and you're going to remember these words. I'm telling you, don't let this scare you, but at the same time, learn from it. Learn from it. And just the best thing you can do right now is live your life. If you got some plans that you're trying to get in play, work on those plans. Occupy until I come. If you got some land you're trying to establish or wherever that is, then you should work on that. If you have a business that you're trying to establish, then you should work on that by the grace of the Most High. And finally, keep these commandments, laws, and statutes the best you can. And just pray. Pray really hard because we don't deserve it. And pray that we would be found worthy. That's the best you can do. And you prepare as though if he was going to come tomorrow or whatever. But I'm talking about the idea of just being constantly ready. And so you got to look what's going on. So this whole thing that's happening is happening for a reason. And we have to go through all this stuff. But in reality, we are not together as a people. We are not. We are a joke as a people. And you can blame the camps, you can blame whatever. But it's all of Israel. We are judged as a unit. And right now, we are like a loose cannon. We are so undone. Everybody's gone with the wind. Everybody is right. Everybody got their own little doctrines and things like that. So the Most High is going to let these things happen. He's going to let you all fall into your little traps. He's going to allow his people to bleed themselves out. So since you want to justify sleeping with the enemies or whatever, fine. You want to have children by them? Fine. You go ahead and do that, and you're going to see what happens for the next 3 generations. This is serious. If you think this is a joke, you just wait and see. And of course, many of us won't make it to then because a generation is roughly 71 years. So we are going to our graves. We are definitely going to our graves. Now, how we go to our graves, that's going to make up the difference. And that's where you have to make a decision. You're going to serve the Most High with all your heart, mind, and strength. For those of you who are sick and tired, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to go to your grave with it. So the best thing you can do is get out that mindset and start laboring for the Most High. Start finding something that you can do or finding something somewhere you can contribute and labor for the Most High. Doesn't have to be nothing complicated. Whatever you're good at, whatever you can do. And we'll just have to keep this ball rolling and everything is going to have to play itself out. These camps that you all mad at, and I'm mad at them too. And yes, yeah, and you can say I hate the camps. Yes, I hate the camps. It's not the brothers in these camps I hate. I just hate what they've become. I hate what they're doing. I hate their wickedness. I hate what they're pushing. That's what I hate. And you can imagine why the Most High hates us. It's not so much as us, but it's what we're doing, what we're not doing. You get what I'm saying? I hope you're starting to see the big picture now, the really big picture. So again, I pray that it wasn't all bad news. You know, the good news about this whole thing is, like, again, how you look at it, and you look at it with a positive outlook. Keep these commandments, laws, and statutes, and live. But you will eventually die, one day or another, whether it be of old age or what have you. We are going to the grave. This generation, the next generation after us, and probably the generation after that, we are going to the grave. So this whole thing about, oh, we're going to be delivered in this generation, you can forget it. Hang it up. Hang it up. I've already showed you what the Most High showed me. But it doesn't need to be negative. You see what I'm saying? You know, and I have peace even in the midst of what we're going through. I have peace even in the midst of this hellhole that we're in, and everything that's going on. I still have peace because I know at the end of the day, as long as I remain firm and strong in the Most High, He has our back. He has my back. And that's the only thing that's going to matter at the end of the day. I'm not concentrating on, oh, well, when the Most High going to deliver us and this, and I'm sick and tired. And no, I'm going to labor. I got some property. I'm going to start building little by little. And as long as I got strength in me, I'm going to increase in knowledge and do what I can do. And you know what? I'm going to let the chips fall where they lay. I'm going to put my trust in the Most High and go from there. So I just wanted to drop that precious jewel. I pray that you all really see the big picture now and see the things that's going on. You may need to rewind and go over this again. But now you can see how undone we are. How undone we are. You may say, well, what about those who are keeping the commandments already? Well, then what about the ones that's keeping the commandments? That's all good and dandy. They kept the commandments in the wilderness, wandered for 40 years, but they still had to wander for 40 years. So again, just stay faithful unto death, endure to the end. And that's where we got to take this thing. So with that being said, I say shalom and stay strong.
I'm here to encourage you, brothers and sisters, trying to paint to you a better picture. Everything I say, I back it up with the scriptures to get you out the matrix. It's been over 400 years of life. You gotta open up your eyes, 'cause there's so many reasons we in captivity. You gotta flee from the heathens. There is hope in our future, even though they trying to do us in. But we live to fight another day. Vengeance is Yah. We'll be praying for Yahuwah's day. I gotta thank Yahuwah for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Whoa. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yah, and the faith of Mashiach. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. I gotta thank Yahuwah for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yah, and the faith of the Mashiach. Oh, oh, hey, hey, whoa, whoa. Do, do, da, da, da. Do, be, do, be, do, be, do, da, da. Do, be, do, 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 da, da. Do, 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 da, do. Be, do, da, do, 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 da, 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 da. Do, be, do, be, do, 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 da, 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 da. Do, 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 do.